I am Jeannie Dukes, and I am with Lewes Counseling, LLC in Lewes. And I'm actually not sure how much of my 6 minutes I can fill following Nancy, because I, like her, believe very much in working with children and families in praise. I also believe in saying your name, saying the child's name, getting them focused. I'm not a big fan of leashes as well as a tool. So she's pretty much done my presentation. But I do work with children and families, and primarily I focus on significant life-changing events with families, family dynamics around separation and divorce, a lot with child trauma, children who've experienced sexual abuse, physical abuse. I've been trained specifically and certified when Dr. Bradley and all of that came out. The state trained several of us in that field to work specifically with those children. And I do a lot of parenting training, hence the praise and say their name and all that great stuff. And I opened actually, I think about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, but I was always doing it as a hobby. And it was an expensive hobby because I had rent. Not many people have a hobby where they have rent and malpractice insurance and all of that great stuff. But it grew, and I decided to go full-time because the need was there. And essentially, when folks call me, they may have called other places first, but what they're finding if they call any other place is that there's a 3 to 6 month wait list on average for child therapy or family therapy. So in doing it 1 or 2 nights a week over the last 4 or 5 years, I didn't feel like that I was serving or helping as many families as I would have liked to have. So last year, I just threw out salary, life insurance, disability, all that great stuff, and started doing it all on my own. And right now, I am basically to capacity. Monday through Thursday, I have after-school hours, and I have no after-school hours left at this point. And I work on Friday mornings as well to serve people who aren't into the evening hours. And that's when I do my administration. And again, like Nancy, I am the therapist, I'm the administrator, I'm the biller, I'm the scheduler. I do everything except the lawn. I don't have any lawn. My landlord takes care of that for me. But I'm sure you have more lawn with the puppies. So a good referral for me would basically be any family having a significant life event. Again, separation, divorce. I teach parenting classes. The state mandates that anyone going through separation, divorce, custody issues, and they have children, they have to come to a 6-hour class that's mandated for them. So I teach that once a month on Saturdays. I also teach workshops for schools and community-based organizations. So I, unlike a lot of other therapists in my field that stay in their building all day, go out and do community work as well. And sometimes that's volunteer work, and sometimes that's through grants. For example, I just finished a grant in DC where I taught about 30 folks who are in the DC public schools around GLBTQ issues, specifically health risks that kids who are either identified as gay or perceived as gay, they face in the school day: bullying, depression, suicide ideation, things of that nature. So educating the staff how to be inclusive in their language and how to notice things when things are happening around them, specifically bullying. I also do CPR. I've done some classes on anxiety and depression. So those are my workshops that are available, but I can pretty much tailor it to any organization's need. Leadership, I heard you mention leadership a couple of times. So I have offered communication and leadership trainings as well to workplace facilities. Communication, I think, is probably one of my strongest suits, so I really enjoy teaching that topic. On a day-to-day basis, again, I do see children, usually school age, for individual issues around adjustment, new school, new environment, new dad, new mom. Also, I work with depression and anxiety, a lot of school phobia, a lot of anxiety with our young people today. Some kids need to literally be pulled out of the car and carried into the school, and so I've worked with a lot of those children. I see people nodding. Do you have some of those kids? You know some of those kids, or maybe you're a teacher and you're the pooler. So I've worked with them. I had a little girl, bless her heart, that would throw up every day on her way to school. And after 4 weeks, she was good to go and no more problems. So that was actually a great story to share with you. So that's me in a nutshell. Again, I'm the administrator, I'm the therapist, I'm 46 seconds from being up, and I pretty much, if I think I can help you, I will help you, and I usually know that within the first session. If during the first session it seems like it's a topic outside of my area, I will certainly find you a new place to go versus just saying go somewhere else. So once you're in for life, and I check in with you and make sure everything's going well. An example of that was, many of you know the diagnosis probably as multiple personality disorder, but its new title is dissociative disorder. And I had a gentleman I was working with for a few weeks, and things just weren't settling right with me as far as the things that he was saying. I didn't think, we were working on anger, but I kept seeing something else going on. And so I said to him, I think let's shoot for a psych eval, because there's those therapists out there that are a little bit taller than me, have a little bit more skill set than I have, and I thought he needed to visit that person. And it turned out this gentleman has multiple personality disorder, dissociative disorder, so I referred him out, and he's being treated for that now. So I have my limits. I enjoy what I do, and I'm very glad to be back here to speak with you today, and zero.
Great, thank you. I'm curious, when you said you were working with some of the schools, do they have any state funding? I mean, do they refer kids to you?
Yes.
Do they have funding, or do the parents pay? How does that work?
Well, the schools, actually most of them now have their own social workers or LCSWs placed in the schools, which is great, and they can do a lot of feeling as far as, finding out who they can work with and who they need to refer out. When they can work with them, the only problem that they run into is time. They have thousands of kids in one school, and there's one social worker. So they may be able to check in with a student, but they really can't get deep into the issues. They also don't have the access to the parents like I do, because every time I meet with a child, they're brought by their parent or guardian to my office. So I can say, hey, come on in for 5 minutes. Whereas they've got the kids, but they can't always access the parents very easily. So if it's something a little bit bigger or a little bit more time consuming than what they're able to meet, then they will give me a call. And I have contacts with all the schools and all the districts from previous jobs that I've had. So those networks were already in place and made. So Brenda's going to ask me that question, I know. So I send them out newsletters on a regular basis. I call them and thank you. Actually, I called a teacher the other day. This is a funny story. And I was about to discharge the little girl who was vomiting. And I wanted to check in with the teacher and make sure she's doing well in class. I check, takes a village, so I don't just check with the child and the parent. I find out every other environment. Are they okay? Am I good to discharge them and not work with them anymore? And I called the parent probably about 8 o'clock at night when I got off, or the teacher. Teacher called me right back, and she was just, oh my God, what's wrong? What happened? And I said, well, I'm just checking in, see how she's doing, how she's making out in class. And her response was, oh, I thought something was wrong. No one's ever called me just to check in, which is sad. Mm-hmm. So that I do. I'm very close with the schools. I try to stay as close as possible. They're very busy, so I respect that as well.
That's great. Questions? I didn't mean to take the first question, sorry. But any questions or comments?
That's okay.
I didn't want to forget.
Welcome again. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Kina.
Do you take insurance? And if so, how laborious is that for your administrative procedures and so forth?
Very much so. Very laborious. But I do take it because it's a necessity. I think to be successful, I initially started out working with a firm that was just going to do self-pay. And I don't think that I could make it with self-pay because, well, everyone now is supposed to have insurance, for one. No one wants to pay out of pocket if their insurance is going to cover it. So I'm in network with most of the private insurances as well as the Delaware Medicaid insurances, which if anyone is familiar with the Delaware Medicaid insurance, right now we have United Healthcare Community Plan as well as Delaware Physicians Care, but Delaware Physicians Care is leaving the state of Delaware at the end of this year. So we will have Blue Cross Highmark Medicaid as well. So if anyone knows anyone on DPCI, they need to get off of it before the end of the year.
Do you also do EAPs in the workplace?
I do. I actually had my first EAP 2 months ago, and it worked out very well. And it was a learning process for me because I've had EAPs with most of my jobs, but had no idea. This person came in to 5 sessions covered by her EAP, which is her Employee Assistance Program, part of her insurance plan or part of her benefits. She didn't have to pay a dime, so there was no copay and there was no deductible. She just came for 5 sessions under the EAP, and it was totally covered and very easy process. Yep, and then we switched her over to her copays and her insurance after that.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, Brenda.
Really proud of you. Your last story about the gentleman who you recognized there was something more going on brought me to my question to the forefront, and that is your collaborations. Who you collaborate with, other organizations, healthcare, BB. Would you talk a little bit about
Yes.
who you collaborate with?
I collaborate with anyone I possibly can. It's very important because I'm a solo artist, if you will. I do everything by myself, including the clinical diagnosis and the treatment plan, and deciding when they're ready for discharge. And sometimes that can be very stressful, especially when someone is dealing with something very serious. So I am actually working with some of the other LCSWs in the schools. We've met a couple of times actually to talk about cases and just bump things off of each other. Yesterday I actually called one of my trainers from 5 years ago, one of the programs I became certified in, because I was using that program for one of my kids and had a question about something, and there was nobody asked because there wasn't anyone else that I knew that did that program. So I tracked her down. She was my original trainer, and in our conversation I discovered that she too was a solo therapist, and she said, anytime, let's communicate, let's talk about cases. And I gave her some information on billing. She gave me the information I was looking for on the case, and it happens on a regular basis. Outside of just case management, I am in contact with population health at BB. I've worked at BB before, so I have a lot of contacts there. The schools, the lawyers' offices are great referral sources as well, because they do a lot of the family court and all of that. So I collaborate with them for the legal aspects that sometimes I'm not familiar with and comes up. And trying to think. Nursing facilities, anything I need. I'm actually working on getting a network with Medicare now, so I'm hoping to do a lot more community work as I used to do with the senior population as well. So
Thank you.
I'm willing to talk to anyone. So very important.
Proud of you.
Thank you. You're like my mom. You're proud of me.
You talked about stress.
Yes.
It has to be very stressful at times. What do you personally do to step away from the stress to rejuvenate yourself?
That's a great question. I actually rolled up to my office the other day. I have tinted windows in my car, and I was playing Snoop Dogg, and I was leaning back, in my car, and the ambulance crew, I share a building with ambulance, and they came up to my car and said, okay, this is totally not what I thought about when I think of you. And I said, this is what I do. Music is my thing, so on my way to work, when I'm leaving work, I try not to make phone calls in the car, especially on the way home after I've had 6 or 8 clients. And I say to them, put your stuff on me, just drop it right here, and then leave and have a great weekend and have a great day. Just give all your stress to me, and I take it. And then I get in my car and I put on, Pitbull or what have you, and I jam all the way home, and it just helps me unwind from the day.
So you're angry on your ride home?
I'm getting down. That's a really great question, and that's kind of a joking answer, but it's very important to debrief. If I have had something really tough, I'll call a colleague and we'll talk about it. But usually because of what I work with, family dynamics and basically adjustment, I don't take on intentionally super stressful situations because I am alone. For example, when I first meet a client in the initial assessment, I will rule out suicide ideation a lot of times and crisis-oriented people because I am alone. And that's for their safety and mine. For example, if they can't get a hold of me, the other day when there was no school, I had 8 clients back-to-back, 9 clients back-to-back. Don't usually have that many in one day, but it was a no school day, so I took advantage and they were taking advantage. But if someone's trying to call me, they can't get a hold of me. So if someone comes in with crisis or suicide ideation or history of suicide attempts, a lot of time I'll refer them out to another agency that has a team of people. And for me, that's safe for them. They're getting the care that they need, and I can sleep at night knowing that if they can't reach me, that they have other people that they can reach. So that's a very smart question, but a lot of times I'm very good. Boundaries, very, very good with me, and they have to be.
Yeah, I'm sure that's difficult to do, though, because
Yes.
we all have stress from our jobs, and you
Yes.
go home and you mull it over, excuse me,
Yeah.
and it's, I would think in your position, it would be hard just to kind of drop all of it.
Right.
And let it go. I just want, a quick question, I know Keena has a question. When you, oh, okay. It's on.
You mentioned Pitbull and Snoop Dogg.
Yes.
We happen to have a trainer that we might be able to recommend for you.
I was wondering if anyone would pick up on that.
And not only that, but I heard mentioned earlier that somebody was a little short on patience every now and then. Wondered if you might be able to reciprocate.
Yes, I have a lot of patience. It's actually pretty incredible. I don't know where that came from, actually, but patience is a virtue for sure.
When you're working with someone, do you often go back and think of previous patterns from other people, or is every situation very unique?
Both. Every situation is very unique, but I do go back and look at other patterns. I also ask them about their patterns. That's very important. But yeah, I'll the story about the young man with the dissociative disorder, I couldn't think of any other patterns of anyone else, and that what was throwing me off. It was just, sometimes you just have that gut feeling, and he actually had a crisis shortly after, and I think part of that was that when I made the referral and the psych evaluation concept to the parent, they sat on it for a while. They thought he was full of, doggy poo, and so they didn't act on it right away. And unfortunately, it progressed, because I had discharged him. I said, I can't help you. You need to go get a psych eval. I think this is what it is. And he was off to school, and unfortunately. So gut feelings are important sometimes, but patterns are even more important.
Have you been in a situation where you've been, I guess, nervous or scared? I mean, do you get in that situation? And
Sure.
What do you do? Do you just talk yourself through it, or what do you do in that
Nervous or
situation?
scared for the people or for me
For
and
you.
safety?
I mean, do you ever feel threatened
Sure.
by any of your conversations? I mean, and then I'm just
Yes.
wondering, how do you cope with sitting in front of someone that you
I
feel?
confront them immediately and put it on them. And if I'm not comfortable with the result, they're discharged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't put myself in, especially being by myself.
Well, that's why I was saying that, 'cause,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you are by yourself.
Yeah, there are things you're taught in school, sit closest to the door, don't have things in your office that can harm you, but a person can harm you without things in your office. And I did have a client one time that was super creepy, and that's the professional term, I'm sure. But what I did was said goodbye to him that night, and then when he came back, he was even more creepy before we got started. But in the meantime of that first session and the second session, I had talked to a couple of folks and got a plan for him so that it wasn't like, see ya, bye, I can't help you. It was, here's a list of other providers that can help you. I'm not the right provider for you. And I've done that twice for individual clients in the 6 years I've been doing this, and which is a good number, I think, over 6 years. On the other hand, sometimes I get in the middle of parent divorce, separation court issues, and that probably is more prevalent than the ones that might be kind of scary in the office. So I share a building, like I mentioned earlier, with an ambulance crew, Heart to Heart in Lewes, and I'm very open with them. They're 24 hours a day in my building, which is awesome, so that when I have late nights, I know their routine when they're coming and going. They know my routine. So we've had the conversation, and actually just last week, because I have a parent that might be a little upset with me for being honest to the judge. But I shared with them, if anyone comes around looking for me, please don't give out my information. Everything's on the website and the door that they would need. Don't give out my schedule. And then, we kind of have if I yell out, they come in, that type of thing. They've given me the code to their door downstairs right in front of my car. In case I'm ever confronted at my car, I can, so we have a safety plan in place, basically.
That's nice that you have it.
Yeah.
That's
And I'm
pretty
tough.
cool.
I grew up with a big brother, so,
That's right.
I'm not scared.
All right, any other questions?
It's not that I have a question, it's just I have a very neat comment, I hope. We do the same. I do dogs, she does people, but I have lately, in this past year, had owners that are either teachers of autistic children or parents or just a special needs child. And the neat thing is I'm getting into what we call special needs dogs. That's what the Dogs Working with Dogs program is all about. And I just say special needs. It is socializing, but socializing is a myth. But it's neat because the leadership and the focus, they go, yeah, that's what we do in class, so I can get into this. And it's so neat hearing this, and then it makes everything roll faster. So it's almost like helping them with their dog. Not to be, I'm comparing, but that's just really neat hearing this. It keeps coming back to me.
And a lot of it is, like you said, the training with the parents.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to
So we
change
have that in common
their
as well.
habits, their psyche, what they're doing. And when you can do that, you can really start making a difference. So that's neat.
Any other questions or comments?
Nancy gave me a thought. In the counseling that you do, say with children or teens, or I guess adults too, do you ever recommend a pet as part of their therapy or anything like that?
Whatever is possible. That's a great question. We talk about religion, regardless of my views. We talk about pets. We talk about other modalities of therapy, whether it be, alternative, massage, acupuncture, whatever the person is open to that they find helpful, we definitely visit that. Yeah, I love the idea of pets. And I actually said I would love to bring my dog in with me to my office, and I could, but he's pit bull, part pit bull, and I'm afraid that would become a bigger liability than because of stereotypes, even though he's completely lovable. But yes, definitely dogs, any other possibility that helps them get through whatever it is they're dealing with. I actually didn't send her because, bless her heart, it's a super expensive ticket, but I recently sent a client, supported them in going to the country of their origin because their stress level and their anxiety was impairing their functioning during the workday. And they were anxious because their parents and their family are living in a war zone. And part of the therapy was actually, it's pretty low-key right now and safe to go visit. And so part of our therapy was, how about a trip home, so you can see that they're okay and that you can get the feel of the environment. And that could backfire, obviously. We talked about that too, but anything that could work to help someone feel better, definitely. It's individual, like Chris said, very much so. Not everything comes out of a book.
Last question. When you're building your clientele, are they buying one consultation, 3 sessions? How does that work?
It's very individual based.
Okay.
So I might have someone come in who just needed to dump what they're feeling, what they're doing, and maybe they come once or twice, 3 times. And then I have someone that has actually experienced a trauma, for example, and we take them through a process. And the process could be up to 12 visits. Usually with my parenting skills, if the parent's just struggling with a behavior with a child, I have a program that I use. It's ideally 4 sessions, and we should be good. I have kids that, if they've experienced the trauma, we use something that the state uses. It's TFCBT, trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapy. It's up to 16 sessions to get them through every step of that, scientific-based, to be useful and efficient. So it just depends on what their issue is, how many visits we set up. And then some people, they just want to check in once a month just to be validated and, check in, make sure their meds are working, whatever it is. So very different for each person.
Do you prescribe meds?
I do not prescribe meds, no. Actually, that's my last modality, actually, that I would suggest. Only in needed cases.
Great, thank you.
What can we do as a community to support you and help you grow?
Well, I'm at the point now where, like I mentioned earlier, my evening hours are super maxed, and I have people waiting to get into them. So I'm at the point now where I need to make a decision. I need to either bring someone in to do the administration I do on Friday, so I open up an entire another day for therapy, or I bring in other people and make money off of them. So I'm at that turning point where I just need to change my business plan, alter my business plan, and decide what I want for my future. So help me grow. I would actually turn that around and say help kids grow. Like I mentioned earlier, it takes a village, so be good parents, be good aunts and uncles, and put me out of business. That I would much prefer.